Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief Recap. Today is Friday, TGIF, except for the fact that it is Friday the 13th. Dun, dun, dun. And also, the Ides of March are going to be on Sunday. Oh boy, what a mess. Talk about a double whammy. Um, you've heard Brian squawking about how we've got this crazy long-term celestial cycle event coming up here the first weekend of April. And I find it a bit odd that Easter weekend was somehow delayed until the second week of April. So this is going to be a screwy period here. And obviously now you guys probably watched back at the end of last year and beginning of this year, and I was like, get ready, folks. 2020 is going to be a nutso year, and sure enough, it's getting nutso. Unfortunately, we're not quite at the window where you can say that the nutso-ness is over. I could see this go on for at least a couple more weeks, and I've been sort of suggesting to people just to cool your jets. Sadly, of course, in the cryptoverse, we got schooled very hard yesterday about how quickly they can bring these prices down. And, the sad part about it, of course, is I have mused of late whether crypto was a risk-on or risk-off asset. I do find it interesting to see how the gold is behaving in here. If we are to interpret that the risk-off assets have topped out, maybe we're going to start to see dead cat bounces come out of the stocks. It's interesting how crypto and Bitcoin took a huge dump earlier and now is trying to recover here. But I'm still thinking we're very, very early in this bottoming process. I think I had mentioned recently that we are not going to know that the bottom is in until these people actually start saying, all right, enough down, you go up now. I think na-na-na-na-na-nas. And actually, we had a really interesting conversation in the Daily Brief today about longer term cycles and levels and looking at something like the Dow. We had a short-term price objective hit, but I think ultimately it looks to me like this megaphone that we actually established with that January or that Christmas sell-off last year actually has set a level. And ironically enough, I was telling the community today, I think I'd actually prefer that they just rip the bandage right off, get it right down below 20,000 on the Dow, freak everybody out, bring it finally back in, fill in that gap from the Trump election, and we're done. But I don't think they're going to make that this easy. If we think those celestial event kind of windows, what I'm kind of thinking is we get out of March here, and then maybe work our way back up into the next celestial event, which just so happens to be the end of June, beginning of July. And then we start the real dump into that November pivot kind of idea. So that's sort of what I'm thinking now. We'll see. Only time will tell. I do find it fascinating that Mr. Trump himself has actually come down with this coronavirus. So it's going to be fascinating. Is he going to self-quarantine himself?
Oh, don't say that.
I don't know. You can hear Kavarkinator in the background going, oh, Brian, don't go
No,
down that road.
he didn't. It's not confirmed.
Oh,
He just
okay.
was
It's
in,
not
like,
confirmed
yeah,
yet.
yeah. That's just like
He had lunch with the president of Brazil or something like that, and they were kissing, and all hell broke loose. I don't know, something like that. So as the Kavarkinator says here, probably good idea. Let's not make that official yet, but I do understand that there's supposed to be a press conference or something this afternoon. So, only time will tell. Having said that, you can see the stock market is enjoying a bit of a bounce here, and they keep in mind as a monthly chart, right? And as I'd said before, I don't think it was going to stop selling off until these guys came in and said, all right, enough is enough. It's interesting when you look at, like I've been watching, I've been posting out charts about the Dow. and what does sort of our next potential long trade look like. And I don't know how long ago that was. Here it was. I do find it interesting that plunge protection teams have now started to get to work now that we've actually come down into these trade levels. So go figure. For your sort of chart deck here, and I'll try and refrain from making any more outlandish Trump statements. We had talked recently about the absolute chaos in the currency markets, and now we actually had a empire that fired here about 2 or 3 days ago. You can see how the U.S. dollar is just cranking up here, and I really wanted to short that euro, but I mean, it's straight up. Now it's straight down. There's just really nothing set up, and I had even said recently, I'm almost shell shocked right now. So here we are rallying right back up top, and the empire signal was valid. Stock market, like I said earlier, sitting now basically at those AB equals CD objectives as the higher ups basically say, okay, well, no more down, and you start going up. Fascinating how the oil is just literally sitting right on this harmonic level. I mean, now we've got stock market sitting on bearish harmonic objective, oil market sitting right at its bearish market objective. Is it time for maybe these things to start bottoming, process, and pivoting back up? I now remember we have talked recently about the empire pattern in the bond market firing, that fractal. So the bonds have topped, and of course we've been talking about how scary the gold market could be, and sure enough, they're kicking gold's ass here now. So I think it's still too early to quote-unquote call a bottom. I think there's still some more FUs going on. I also think today, too, and we had an interesting conversation in the Daily Brief about options open interest. And I do believe that the people that are operating the VIX, they have a vested interest to keep people nice and freaked out and scared up top here today. Notice all of these put options. Remember, 95% of all puts are written by institutions. And notice on the VIX, if you see the VIX right now, you can see up in the 60s, 70s, there's no open interest whatsoever. Wall Street is not on the hook at all. And all of these puts all will expire worthless. That is a lot of money. And you see the VIX right now sitting at a nice comfortable, where are we here on the VIX? 69.1. So nonetheless, needless to say, blah, blah, blah. As long as they keep the VIX above this 60 here into the end of the day, and my hunch is they probably have a vested interest to keep it above this 57.5, they win. And you can see they're not on the hook at all here. So the calls, there's a lot of retail open interest here, so you don't necessarily know if it's institutional or retail. But the puts, almost all of this is institutional. So it gives us a pretty good idea of why they want to keep the market exactly where it is heading into today's expiry. All right. So risk on, risk off. Same old, same old. I've been telling you guys recently that a lot of my long ideas have been blown out here. I've got like 1 or 2 more names that I really like, that I really want to hold on to. I've gotten my portfolio, I've weeded it back down to very reasonable risk sizes. So I think I'm probably just going to leave things as it is for the time being there. But I'm the type of guy, I'm always sort of thinking about, okay, what's down the road? What's coming next? What's coming next? And I tell you, I absolutely love the idea of the entire market shitting their pants and freaking out and resetting itself. I don't really want to invest in commodities anymore. I've made the transition. I want to invest in growth for the next cycle. So I look at a company like this Silvergate here. They are a bank specifically set up to service the crypto community. They had, I think they said they signed up another 20 new customers through December of 2019, and their total customer base is now up to about 850 or so corporate clients. Revenues very positive. They only have 19 million shares out. They're trading at like 5 times earnings, and they have like I think it's about $10.50 in cash on the books. So this is a great example where, people are freaking out about crypto. They're freaking out about the stock market, freaking out about coronavirus. But what you don't realize is that some corporate raider could come along here at $8, $9 a share and say, fine, I'm going to buy the company out. There's only 19 million shares out, and dissolve the company and just keep the cash in his pocket. Anytime you see a stock trading below the actual cash it has on the books and they're earning money, this is a no-brainer. But the problem is, as we say, the market is acting illogically right now. I can give you a number of different reasons why. And they're not really thinking fundamental. So, it's names like this that I suggest, thinking about the next cycle, thinking about growth. If they're just throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I'm very interested. If we carve out a nice little inside bar reversal here, I might just go grab some stock, thinking about, this thing just IPO'd. Usually what they do is they bring out IPOs and then they ultimately bottom at about half of the IPO price. So I do find it interesting that basically they brought this thing out $12, $13, and here we bottoming, $7. Maybe $6 is where the ultimate panic would be, right? That would be half of that, 6.5. But, hopefully you look at a chart like this, I fully expect at some point down the road that they're going to fill all these gaps in. You can see where horizontal resistance is. So I'm very interested. So there's an idea for you to think about, and it's in the crypto space. I want to be investing in next generation technology. And the great part about it is, our little TRI SOF club, we still got tons of cash. I got lots and lots and lots of cash to spend. And now a lot of these sort of 3D printing companies and next-gen robotic companies and banks that service the crypto community, these prices are now starting to come down into real value levels, and I'm very, very interested in becoming an investor. So, food for thought. I thought I'd include that today as a conversation about, is there anything in the stock market that's even the slightest bit interesting to me right now? Moving specifically over to the corn. Obviously we took a pretty big punch in the nose overnight, but I did find a few interesting things developing here. First and foremost, interesting how this was an 88.6 off of this entire range, and that is the original market structure bottom. And you notice that all they did was go doink, fill all those open orders, and then ding, 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 take the market right out of there. Through the daily, and as you can see, this trade metric, I don't really have a problem. And a number of site members, including Mr. Kavarkanator himself, took this trade overnight. I don't have a problem with this trade. I actually think this is a trader's trade. You got to be able to step in against previous market structure and, live with the results. Those people that stepped in against this previous structure, you got stopped out. It's a trader's life. But I could totally see this. This is, to me, it looks like a trader's trade. I do also find it interesting, too, that these big honkin' AB equals CDs are basically saying that they want to take the market right back down to this original bottom, too. So those people that did take this trade today, I don't think you want to get too wrapped up in the short term because, like I said, I still think this is a very dead cat bouncy kind of market in the short term. We had things like 30-minute divergences develop overnight through the MEX blow up, and I think those have played themselves out now. And, as you kind of saw there just a moment ago, we run algos on the site, and actually one of our algos just actually is going short now. Imagine that. And I got to love this community. This community, it's just 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. We have so many different people contributing so many different ways. We started out this algo project last fall. We called it the I Want to Be a Day Trader algo setup. Just simple 2-to-1 off of fractals, number of time frames all agreeing. And now this project, through multiple TRI members and community support, has turned into one hell of an algo. This thing is just crazy insane. insanely customizable. And there's no way in hell I could have possibly ever done this. So it's just such a great testament. I mean, this is pretty good numbers. 555 wins, 156 losses, and 500 scratches. Those are pretty good numbers. They're not bad. And this is just a simple 2-1. So, point I was trying to make there is, algos are actually flipping back to the bear side now in the short term. And then also, too, we have to understand we're heading into the weekend. So get ready. This could be lots of fireworks here. So, long and short of it here, prices come down into some interesting levels for those really slick trader, got to trade kind of trader setups. Is there any signs of bullish divergence in our momentum indicators to suggest that maybe we have actually bottomed? You can see there's a hell of a fight going on in volume, and I kind of think yesterday's action was a bit capitulatory. Is that the right word? It is interesting. Remember I made reference to that 18th of February auction as a pivot? Oh, God, looking back in hindsight, Jesus, that's crazy. But we look at things like MACD. Nope, no divergence there. If we look at things like RSI, we see that we made lower lows, so no signs of W's anywhere in sight here. The one thing that did jump out at me when I was getting this video rig going for you guys, you can see RSI is extremely oversold, and he doesn't like to stay oversold, so there's probably some sort of bounce on the way. But one thing that did jump out at me this morning is I built this one indicator years and years and years ago called the Willy, which basically highlights when the markets are either egregiously oversold or egregiously overbought. And gee whiz, look at where Willy is. He is officially stupidly oversold. So this is a great analogy. If I was a retail broker, when would my telephone be ringing, all the customers freaking out and wanting to sell? Well, usually that's when we get down to stupidly oversold. Does it make sense to be a seller of Bitcoins here? Not really. I don't have enough indicator confirmation to actually start thinking about bottoms. And like I said to you guys before, I totally believe, it's just me, so what, that our pivot is somewhere right around that first weekend of April. So I wouldn't be surprised if the next week or two is still going to be very choppy. As you can see, all we've done is basically, we could very easily doji here by the end of the day. Who knows? Dead cat bounce. You can see where 13 EMA is. It's all the way up there at 7,600 or so. This really, I think, is our playground. And, anybody who can get this trade off of Kavarkinator's level there, I think we used to call this the leper Kavark setup because we had a site member who was from Ireland who loved 88.6s. Risk basically to a break of new lows. You can see there's Bobo's crazy 8.77 chaos level sitting there right at $3,000. Let this AB equal CD. Take some heat on this down against here. But I don't really mind the idea of hunting long setups off of this 88.6. If you just bought that blindly, way to go. You're a rock star. If you want to wait for some sort of signs of W's here, totally awesome. But I actually like the idea of hunting along down in here and risking against those old lows. It's not a bad idea at all. The only problem with me is I'm kind of a slowpoke. So I would prefer to have some sort of structure to work with. Those basically what I like to tell everybody in the public. Try and follow that 3-step setup process. So clearly we've got location. Now we need to find some sort of indicator confirmation. Give me W's, please. Some sort of signs of divergence would be awesome. We don't have that yet. And then finally I'd like to see a nice W. So it's going to take some time still. And I think I've showed you guys this before. I talk about this ad nausea. How long does it take for bottoms and tops to develop? There's a bottom, there's a top, some hunches, same sort of thing. That early April catalyst, if this is the ultimate bottom, then if we just think sort of similarly, maybe it's going to take longer, who knows? But if we think similarly, the bottoming process here is going to take at least a good week or two to develop. So go slowly. I like the fact that Really, you could make the argument there is no, they have removed the risk premium from the crypto market. I think to a certain degree they've removed the risk premium to the stock market. But the problem here is we can't get bullish until we actually start seeing the bulls step up and take over. So that's good. They've ripped the Band-Aid off. Now the question here is, do we actually start finding buyers, W's, and start climbing the wall of worry again? Okay, I think there's not a hell of a lot to talk about in altcoin land. I did find it fascinating. We'll just make a quick comment. I had a stink bid to buy this RVN off of these original lows, and I finally got filled through that dump overnight, which I find kind of amusing. Nanny nibbles, very, very small. I wanted to be in this story. I'm in now. And then, go figure, and it's actually funny that I put this tweet out because I actually met the guy, and he's a super, super, super nice guy, the lead developer of Doge. I like his thinking. Are you going to get rich because these cryptocurrencies replace the fiat currency system? I don't think that's really the best way to approach crypto. I like the idea that this idea of the blockchain is going to revolutionize the entire business world. So think of the direct applications of your cryptocurrencies. How do they get used to drive profit margins? How do they get used to improve efficiency? That's the way you get rich in crypto, in my opinion, going forward. So I find it amusing that, everything's going to rat shit, and then good old Doge is actually rallying through this. Go figure. And if anything, that's a good sign of value. When everything else collapses and versus Bitcoin, Doge actually goes up. In my opinion, that's a good sign. And of course, hopefully you can see, are there any kind of letters of the alphabet that us trader guys are interested in? I think I'll leave the conversation at that. All right, everybody. Have yourselves a great day. All the best, and bye for now.